Okie dokie. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of break down how I draw a face. We'll kind of talk about some general head face proportions, and I'll construct a head how I construct one, and then I'll kind of compare it to just basically a face graph that I pulled off of just a Google image search, just to see how I do. Anyway, it's kind of nice to make sure that you're checking yourself every once in a while and see if your proportions are right. There's different ways to kind of set up your basic guidelines, and for me, it kind of depends on what I'm drawing or how I want to draw something. Sometimes I'll start, just by making a nose first, and then I'll work my way out of the face from there, kind of go into the eyes and the mouth, blah, whatever. But also, I've drawn faces and heads a bazillion times, so I kind of generally know what the structures are supposed to look like and how they're supposed to be spaced out. But if you're just kind of starting out, good way to start. And we're just going to do just a face-on view, a front-facing view. You just kind of start with just a circle. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle by any means. These are just kind of your construction / guidelines. So this is basically a representation of the main mass of the skull, like, your cranium. And then if you get a center line going down, and you extend that line down from the circle a bit, kind of almost like half the diameter, I guess. What is that, the radius of the circle, about that far down. Now, given sometimes I'll make these guidelines for myself, and then I end up having to change them as I'm drawing anyway, to fit how I'm drawing the face, I guess. But this is a good way to start. So if all goes according to plan, this bottom line should be our chin, the bottom of our chin. And here we have the sides of the head. And those are going to come down just barely past the bottom of the circle, So like if the bottom of the circle is coming out here, like we want this to come just a little bit past that. And then you're going to kind of angle that down to that chin line. And that's going to give you your basic kind of jawline there. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. This is just a sketch. You can always refine as you go. I usually do. My drawings are always a sloppy, horrible mess when I first start them, so don't worry about that. So here we have our just generic head outline. Now, the rest of this, in terms of like order of what you're drawing, is up to preference and what works for you. Personally, I like to start with the nose, and just work my way out, like I was saying. But it may be easier sometimes for beginning drawers to start with the eyes. So, generally speaking, the eyes are going to be about halfway between the top of the head and the bottom of the chin. So if we find our halfway point, let's say it's here ish, right? So, halfway between the center of the circle and the bottom of the circle, obviously. That's roughly where the center of our eyes are going to be. And Usually I do this so quickly it's all muscle memory, but usually the eyes are about an eye width apart and about an eye width from the sides of the head. So basically you end up with 5 eye widths across on the head. Generally speaking, again, like everyone's face is different. This is just kind of your basic guidelines. So eyes are going to be centered on this line. So I'm just going to draw just a circle for each one. We'll get eyelids in a minute here. There's our eyes. Cool. Awesome. Great. So now, nose, bottom of the nose is roughly here. So almost basically halfway between the center of the eyes and the bottom of the chin. That's where our nose is going to be. And, you know, if you just want to do like an indication of a nose, you can, you know, nostrils, cool, easy. Some people will do it as kind of this wavy little squiggle. I usually do the whole little like ball nose, you know, got the ball of the nose, the little like septum-y part that comes down, flare my nostrils out, and I might do another, I can certainly do more videos on how to draw different parts of the face and anatomy. This is just how I like to draw noses. Get the bridge of the nose in there. But you can do it as simple as you want. Okay, so we got our nose. Why don't I go into eyelids while we're here? So usually once I get the kind of bridge of the nose up there, kind of make my little indications of the, what are those, tear ducts? So this circle is my entire eyeball, okay? Whole eyeball right there. But we want to make the eyelids, and so you usually don't have your entire eyeball showing at once, hopefully not. So you want to look at this as being a three-dimensional object, and your eyelids are going to curve around that three-dimensional object. My person's looking kind of stoned, but that's okay. You know, you can have them as open or as closed as you want. And symmetry is always a pain in the butt. Everyone always has trouble drawing the other eye. See, my guy's squinting right now. You know, you can erase if you want or leave them a little wonky looking, it don't matter. Right now, we just drawing, we just sketching. General eyelid shape, and then you can kind of accentuate this top lid, which the crease of the top lid is going to be where the actual top of the eyeball is. Same with bottom lid, you can kind of accentuate that if you want. Don't have to right now. But those are general eyelids. Eyebrows are pretty much going to start in line with the tear duct shape. And I could do a whole video just on eyebrows. I remember when I was in makeup school, gosh, I think we spent several days just on eyebrows. Making sure we got the shape of them right. That's just very rough. You can draw them however you want right now. You know, you could do the whole beauty brow thing, that sort of shape. You know, you can do like, we have a few hairs at the front and then a solid, whatever you want to do. Yeah, you can even just do a little simple. You just don't really want them like that necessarily. I mean, if you're doing like a cartoony thing, I guess you can draw them however you want. I don't know. This is just how I do it. Okay. So there's the top part of the face. Now mouth. Okay, I'm notorious for this. Usually whenever I start drawing my faces, I realize that my facial features that I'm making are way too big for the actual outline of the head that I've drawn, and I end up needing to adjust it anyway. I don't really care. And this is about the point where I realize that that's happening. So, yep, that's just usually what I run into, and it's fine. So, we've got bottom of our nose, bottom of our chin. Now the bottom of our lower lip. Oh, I think it's supposed to be like halfway between those. And the way I draw mouths, that I don't think that's gonna work right now. You know, drawing's an art, not a science usually. If I did that. So here we have our chin. Yeah, that's gonna be too smushed. You could be like, bloop. That's fine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna draw. Yeah. Get rid of you. Okay. I'm just gonna draw the mouth how I'm gonna draw the mouth, and then I'm gonna adjust the chin because that's almost always what happens to me when I'm drawing faces, and that's fine. So at the bottom of the nose, if you want to draw the philtrum, you can, which is that little dip, just kind of a little teardrop shape. Sometimes it's nice to draw it in there just to have a guideline of how far spaced the mouth is supposed to be from the nose. But also occasionally in drawings it ends up looking too harsh on the face. It depends on your style and how you're doing it. But that would be there. So then basically this dip here turns into the Cupid's bow of the top lip. There's different ways to draw mouths. I can kind of show you how I like to construct them. I usually start with a little center circle here. And then these kind of like, I don't know what you'd call them, almost paisley shapes. I feel like if I think about how I draw too much, then I kind of forget how to draw things because then I'm thinking about it too much. It kind of looks like a mustache right now. In terms of size, usually the corner of the mouth lines up with the center of the eyes. More or less. So that should be the edge of your mouth. And then the bottom lip. Sometimes you can give yourself a little guideline by doing two little ovals, that kind of pouty lip shape. I'm going way more in depth on this than I was planning on, but that's just kind of how I do. Okay, obviously the outline of this jaw looks wonky, so this is when I start just adjusting things the way I need to adjust them. It almost never looks right the first time I do it. That's fine. Okay, so nope. Cool, thanks Procreate. All right. Erase that again. Technology. All right. So, chin. Might as well just kind of do a little oval. Get our basic chin shape. Below this lower lip, there's kind of a shadow that happens, and it's kind of this, I don't know what you want to call it, almost like a W shape, sort of. It's kind of funky wedge. So you have this shadow coming down here, and then this curved line is the top of the chin. You know, so if we were to shade that in, it would be, there's a shadow there, right? So that helps give you your distance from your chin. So we've got our chin. And once I kind of figure out where I want my chin to be more better, then I'll kind of flesh out the rest of the jaw. And I can tell right now, because I was trying to follow these guidelines so closely, that my facial features look all kind of smushed together, and I don't really like that very much. I feel like the eyes are too close together. I don't usually do all these guidelines, but that's fine. Okay, let's see how this compares to this little graph I found on Google. Yeah, my face proportions are looking a little wonky here, but it's okay. Not a big deal. Let's take a look at how this lines up. You know what? Actually, pretty close. Pretty close. So this is basically... This is what I pulled off of Google. I didn't draw this. But this breaks down kind of what I was talking about, you know, where here are these blue lines. Here, those are those 5 eye widths across. And I guess here on there is they included the edges of the ears within those eye widths. Well, and this would be the edge of the circle here, right? So we've got our eye width. And then basically they broke the head down, the height of the head, into eye widths as well. So this is all the same distance apart. So they broke it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Basically 7 eye widths high and 5 eye widths across. So that's one way to do it. Let's see. So they've got their eyes. Okay, the nose, they did not quite halfway down. And then the bottom lip is halfway between the chin and the nose. So that one just looks a little more even than mine. But, like I said, if we... Here, let me turn the opacity down on that a little bit. If we take my drawing and put it over this, pretty dang close. Just some of the proportions are a wee bit off. But I wasn't using a reference and just kind of going off of memory. So it's not too bad. It's all right. So if we were to keep going, you know, we could add the... Turn this off. Add the edges of the ears in. So I always like to turn my drawing. I could try not to. So ears, all right. Ears line up, top of the ears line up with the eyebrows. And the bottom lines up with usually... Ears are way bigger than you'd think they'd be. I'm kind of feeling my own face right now as I'm talking. I've washed my hands, don't worry. Earlobe, bottom of the earlobe lines up with the mouth. That's enormous. I don't know how... These proportions always seem wrong when you actually like sketch them out, but when you feel them on your face, like if you feel the top of your ear and kind of draw a line across towards your face, it should line up with your eyebrow. And the bottom of your earlobe, trace an invisible line that's about at your mouth. So that... I don't know about that. Ears from the side are hard. That looks massive. I don't know. Okay. It's okay. Maybe it's fine. That actually might be fine. Like I said, my face proportions are a little weird and cartoony looking right now. But actually, that might be okay. And you know what? If you don't have to draw all this structure, if you want, if you just want to do this kind of weird peanut shape, that's fine. I can get into ears on another day. So I guess, all right. Here's the top of our ear. Here's the bottom of our ear. Let's do it on this side now. See, and I didn't, on this side, this one, I didn't bring that all the way up. I kind of left it at the top of the eyelid. So, not everyone's ears are the same size. Anyway, some people got big old Dumbo ears. Some people got little teeny tiny baby ears. Sometimes age can certainly have something to do with that. Yeah, bring that up. That one's about here. The older you get, what is it? There's like two parts of the face that never stop growing. The what is it? The ears and the nose, I think, always get bigger. Got notifications popping up. Those are a little wonky, but good enough for what we're doing here. So we've got our ears. Cool. Neck can kind of depend. If you've got some big old bulky, muscly superhero you're drawing, sometimes the neck will extend right off the edges of the jaw. If you're drawing someone maybe a little slighter in build, or one look more feminine, you can bring the lines of the neck in a bit. But you don't want to go too skinny. If you draw a neck like that, like they just look like a bobblehead. So I feel like you really don't want to go in too much further than this. That's kind of usually where I go. Which, trying to think of how to give you a guideline to that. I don't know. Eyeball it. Sometimes it's just seeing what looks right, because to me, when I try to strictly follow guidelines, things don't look right. Like this, honestly, this face right now doesn't look right to me. But this is just educational sketching purposes. All right. Hairline, of course, is going to depend on the person. We got our main forehead mass up here. You could have a hairline start way up here. Mine certainly does. I have a 5 head. I ain't gonna lie. You can have it start up there. Some people have really tiny foreheads. If you look at folks' faces, but generally, hairline's gonna dip down in the front, come up. It's gonna come back out by the temples, but then it's gonna taper back towards the ears. We ain't aiming for perfect symmetry here right now, folks. That's more or less what we're going for. Okay. I will never claim to be a hair expert, so oh gosh, let's just do, gonna have a part coming up here. I'm gonna go kind of a funky little floof up here. You can do it however you want. I am always still trying to learn how to draw hair better, so by no means an expert here. But usually, as I'm learning, you want to draw hair in chunks. draw it in sections. Don't try to sit there and draw every single, like, no, that's silly. You want to draw hair kind of in its little, you know, if you want to draw some finer details in there, you can, but you want to keep it in sections. Don't torture yourself. This person looks goofy as all hell. That's fine. All right, I'm gonna make a new layer here, and I'm just gonna kind of quickly shade this in, I guess. You know, you don't have to do this. I just feel like it helps me feel better about my drawings once I shade them in. And I'm probably not going to go into too much detail what I'm doing here right now. You know, you kind of got to learn the planes of the face, get comfortable with the shapes, where light hits, where shadows fall, all that jazz, right? Okay, that's really harsh. Harsh shadow. I don't want that harsh shadow. I honestly think that one of my favorite parts of the face is the nose. I love like shading in a nose. There's something that's really satisfying to me about reflective light in art. It's one of my favorite things in the world. I don't know why. It's just whenever you get a nice, like a shadow on something with some real nice reflective light on the bottom of it, it's my favorite thing. So that's why I like noses so much, because there's always this little bit of reflected light on the very bottom edge, you know? So the core of your shadow isn't even at the bottom of the nose, it's up from it a little bit. Kind of follows the edges of the nostril. But this reflective light isn't going to be white either. You know, it's going to be a little bit darker. But it's not going to be your darkest shadow. Here I said I wasn't going to go into too much detail, and I'm like fleshing this out. It's fine. I'll stop there on the nose. Upper lip, almost always going to be darker than your lower lip. Because your upper lip has more of an overhang and the bottom lip curves out, so it's going to be the one catching the light. Doesn't mean there's not any shadow on it, but it's usually going to be lighter. I like to make the corners of the mouth quite a bit darker. There's some kind of like generic rule that I remember reading somewhere, who knows where, that the darkest shadows of the face are going to be your nostrils, corners of your mouth, and, you know, the pupils, if you got them in there. Oh, scary. Which I'm not going to keep this in there for now. But those are going to be your darkest shadows. Everything else should be lighter in value. And then this, some stone eraser. The shadow under the bottom lip, like I was talking about. I should have turned my notifications off. Sorry. The chin in itself is kind of like a weird little sphere. I should probably do a whole video just on shading in basic shapes, because that's all art is breaking things down into basic shapes. And shading them accordingly. But that is not going to be right now. I'm going to get carried away. All right. Let's do some cheekbones. About there. Plane of the face. About like that. We're going to have a shadow here. I honestly think that shading in the actual like features of the face, like the eyes, nose, mouth, is way easier than shading in the simpler areas of the face, like the cheekbones and the forehead. I always have trouble with those because it's so easy to overdo them. You know, there's this really fine line between them looking flat and them looking like gaunt or just, I don't know, it's tricky. But basically you're going to have light hitting the top of the cheekbone. That's going to curve under for the shadow underneath the cheekbone. You're going to have a bit of shadow at the temple. Anyone who does makeup, this is just contouring. Same thing, just not on your own face. Shoot these ears in real quick. And shadow below the chin. Okay, well, that face is a little bit of a nightmare, but it kind of gives you a general idea of how to construct things. Kind of a nice starting off point. If you have any questions about anything, let me know, and I can certainly always explain things further in a comment or maybe in another video. I don't know. But this was fun, and hopefully I can make more videos like this if there's things that people want to know about. So thanks for watching. Talk to you later.